tuned in to the 2-Minute Warning, a live stream community conversation pertaining to social and political issues and how we can collectively resolve them. Powered by the Westside Gazette.
Hi, and welcome to the 2-Minute Warning, brought to you by the Westside Gazette, South Florida, one of South Florida's oldest African-American owned newspaper that has been serving the South Florida area for the last 52 years. I'm your host, Perry Busby, and joining me is my co-host, the publisher of the Westside Gazette, Mr. Bobby Henry, and Mr. David Wright. How are you brothers doing tonight?
Well,
Sing it, Deacon. Sing it.
no, I'm terrific and getting better. What about you, Dave?
Man, I'm fantastic. Getting stronger every day, but I gotta tell you, it's a one day at a time.
One day.
I hear you.
Yeah. But it's just, it's just good. It's great to be here. Really, it is great to be here.
You know, I'm always honored and humbled just to be in proximity of you gentlemen, and it's truly a pleasure, especially for the type of show we have tonight. Truly an honor.
I know somebody's smiling. I know somebody's smiling.
Always smiling, man. What's going on?
But it's all good, man.
Yeah,
it truly is.
Yeah. So what's the latest in the 954?
Shoot, the 954 consists of what? 850 561. That stuff that your governor doing, your neighbor. Man, we are in deep doo-doo. We are. Yeah. This train is headed. I mean, it's off and running, and I don't know what we are going to do to stop it or derail it. But if this governor has his wishes, we will be incapacitated to the point where we won't know who we are because we can't teach our history. And then if we were to protest about teaching our history, we could get run over by vehicles and nobody would get charged. Our educational system is in chaos. We're just, hey man, we're out on a limb, and this governor has a chainsaw in his hand about to cut that limb. So
yeah, it's extremely disheartening to see what's happening, to say the least. But again, I have to be, mindful of the fact that, we've seen this before. And we persevered through it in the past. So I want to believe there is hope for a better tomorrow, despite what this governor is trying to do. I pray that he's exposing himself to the end that he'll be derailed. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't say that's going to happen by happenstance, but let's continue to hold our position and do what we can when it comes to fighting adversaries such as this.
Right. No, I agree. And I have no doubt that the governor is showing and giving a perfect example of who he is and the type of person that he is. And I also think that it helps when we have conversations like we have that are not so rooted in the politics that people can't understand. That not everything is political, so to say, but that it touches us all, and it touches us in different ways. And so I think I'm enlightened to see the students at New College in Sarasota who are being attacked for a multitude of issues. Stand up and they are standing. And they're facing a daunting task. The governor has taken over pretty much the governing body of that school. And so when you begin to think about those sorts of things, I'm reminded of Frederick Douglass, to paraphrase him. He said, when the government finds out just how much justice the citizens will accept, that's just the same measure of justice you're going to receive. And so these are just tests, and if he gets away, then there is no impetus to change. And so I think that that's upon us to say what we will not accept.
I know the latest bill, excuse me, HB 999. Now I haven't read the entire bill; it's about 82 pages, but
Mhm.
it's proposed in there from just gleaming it that some of the things that will be taken away from universities. The Panhandle Council is one. You won't have no more Greek fraternities, or even I think there's an attack on the Jewish front too. Like I said, I haven't read the entire bill.
Yeah.
But there is some
Right.
dismantling.
And perhaps, Bob, and let's put it out here for the audience. Maybe we should have a show where we outline these bills, because a lot of times we end up fighting on the back end, and maybe we don't know how to fight on the front end. But I don't know. I know part of it has to do, as we were saying, is educating, and so no better way to educate people than to tell them what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I'm gonna cut across the green right fast. I'm gonna cut across the green. We got a situation coming up here Tuesday. There's an election in Deerfield, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if the situation where we had 5 sitting elected officials to run for one seat, and neither one of them won it, we didn't learn a lesson. Here we have in Deerfield, we have I have a picture of Miss Darlene Sweffer, Swaffer. Darlene Sweffer is on a picture side by side with former President Donald Orange Man Trump, and she's running in a race against 2 brothers. One is a sitting commissioner, Ben. What is Ben's real name? Hold up, Ben. Preston. Okay, Preston is a sitting commissioner, and Terry Scott is running against Preston. So you had 2 blacks in the race, and that one Darlene Sweffer. So we're gonna cancel out each other, and perhaps that Darlene Sweffer will find herself walking right into another leadership position where we have knocked each other out.
And is this one of those districts where it's primarily a black district?
Deerfield Beach, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to Deerfield. Let's leave out the beach.
Yeah. So in District 2, if this still is a primary district, there's still a chance that the existing seat can still win. However, this is just bad politics all day long. And we've seen it in the past, and we cannot continue to even make it that close.
Yeah. We can't read the writing on the wall.
Yeah. And every day and twice on Sunday, elections are always about numbers. And I don't care how you feel about your number, as you say. I would dare put this. I'm not making any accusations, but again, if there's only so many blacks you can pull from, and unless Deerfield, you guys help me, unless Deerfield has that strong of a Republican population, my point to that is, then I have to ask them, who got paid to tell you had your numbers?
And who did the counting?
Who did the counting? How is it that you figure with one incumbent in the race? We got a black incumbent in the race, right? Mm-hmm. So who's saying we need to replace this brother? Because I don't know him.
And I don't know either. This is one of those situations where, okay, hell, I didn't even know the doggone election was coming up, man.
Right.
But I didn't
again, which puts that better for a Republican, because low voter turnouts always favor Republicans.
Mm.
And to add to that, Brother Perry, as we know, every 2 years, the mail-in ballot slate gets clean.
Hmm.
So if people in that district have not gone online, if they've not gone in and re-registered to get a mail-in ballot, then you got to go to the polls. And chances are, are we going to go to the polls and vote on this election in Deerfield Beach from District 2? That's the bottom line.
Lord forbid if it's raining. Oh, if the wind blowing a little too hard. Here we are. We're doing the same thing over and over again. And what's the definition of it? What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over.
And
expecting
something different.
Come on, man. We got to wake up.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to put our pride aside. Sometimes we have to, okay, let's come together. Let's have this conversation. All right, David, I think at this time, you probably beat me. Yeah, I don't agree with everything you did, but you probably beat me. So why can't we just understand that and let that be it?
And there'll be other elections.
Yeah, there'll be other elections. But our strategies are, we don't even have a strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anything
We
else?
live to fight again.
We're fighting with broke arms, kneecaps hurting, got a patch on one eye. I gotta look back at my brother and wonder whose side he on. It's hell being a black man here in America.
Yeah, the struggle
Come on, not with all these black billionaires and millionaires and come on, we're doing all this flossing. Come on.
What do you call it? Flossing?
Right.
That's faking, right?
Right.
Let's be for real, man. Okay.
Yeah.
With the black billionaires, you would think that and I'll just use our business. I'll just use black media. You would think that black media would prosper in the time of black wealth, because we are a black business. We do can have a service. So if we have all of this money, all of the athletes and their monies, all of the whomever in their monies, and they believe in the cause, we got to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And you're not equally dividing the money with black folk. You're taking all of your stuff out. But anyway, that's a conversation.
Living lavish.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell the story? Who's going to write about it? Who's going to put it in the books for us to read?
Who's going to tell the truth?
Who's going to tell the truth?
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think that's a very relevant question, because at some point when the history of Broward from let's say the 70s to current day is written, 30 years from now, what will they say about Sistrunk and about those areas? I mean, will it be a paragraph or a sentence?
Yeah. Well, let's ask some of our guests. We got some prolific authors here, so for the show. So let's ask them. Who we gonna bring on first? What are we gonna do first?
Well, I don't mind starting, because the guest that I've been given to introduce is so profound. If I say the name Poitier, that just says it all by itself. But the young lady that I'm here to introduce tonight is Dr. Sherrie Poitier-Liscombe, a therapist, counselor, and author, business consultant, mentor, life coach, real estate broker, and ghostwriter. Need I say any more, right? That just sums it up right there. I really want to go in depth with her bio, but I'm telling you, it's nothing like letting her share some of this herself, because all of these accolades, y'all, we'll be here all night. Dr. Poitier-Liscombe, how are you this evening?
I am amazing and getting more brilliant by the moment.
You don't take it out. Go ahead, Sherrie.
Absolutely.
And look, I have to admit, I did kind of borrow that from Mr. Henry. I tweaked it a little bit,
Yes,
but
you did.
Well, listen, go ahead and tell us, embellish on this a little more, because there's a lot here. I don't know how much you want to get into. We give us a couple of minutes though.
So what I believe in is that everybody is born with purpose. And what I promised the Lord that I would do, if He give me every gift out there, I would use it for His glory. So I try to, just inspire the kids that just because you did one thing or you're successful there, you can't rest on your laurels. So I actually got into real estate just because working for Broward Schools, we didn't have any money over the summer.
Mhm.
And what I realized is I was just so enamored by the fact that people that the Lord sent to me were only people who couldn't get a home. And so that lined up with everything else is that I believe in walking in hope, speaking hope,
Mhm.
and that if you open the door to hope, there's no limit to what can be done. So that's what I kind of try to do with everything. I work with kids. I've worked with kids for about 27 years now with Broward Schools through different programs, mostly the at-risk, the dropout prevention programs. And what I learned in that is if we want our kids to succeed, we have to make them believe they can succeed first before we do anything else. You can't educate a heart if it's empty. You can educate the mind, but it won't make any difference without the heart being attached to it. So that's what I try to do every day is figure out what I can do to inspire hope in my kids. And I've noticed that they still watching me. I got kids now who they have kids, and every time I do something different, I make sure I post it. And the kids are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you still achieving things. You're not just sitting back saying, "Oh, I have a PhD," and that's it. I'm still working on what else can I do to inspire.
So let's ask you this one question before we move on to our next guest. At this point in your career, what would you say have been one of your biggest accomplishments, or one you're most proud of? Dr. Linsom, that's for you.
So the thing I'm most proud of is in 2012, I was fortunate enough to have the students that I was responsible for as the counselor. I was actually able to follow them for the last 3 years in high school. And out of 347 students, I had 342 get a high school diploma, which was unheard of because when I first came to Dillard, they weren't even graduating 40% of their students. So it went from 40% to where I only had 5 kids that didn't get their diploma. And those 5 kids actually got a certificate of completion because they couldn't get past at that time the FCAT. So even though they didn't get their actual diploma, they actually still got their certificate of completion and were able to go on to college. They couldn't get any financial aid, but they still could actually attend college with that certificate. And I think 3 of them the next year passed the FCAT. So I really just had 2 that I couldn't get past everything. So that to me is my biggest accomplishment.
That is awesome. All right, who do we have next, guys?
Perry, who you got, Perry?
Okay, I am excited to have join us tonight Miss Pat Mckanic. Pat, as she is known, is an author and entrepreneur and a certified life coach. Formerly, she worked as a journalist in both print and broadcast, and many of her stories appeared in print in Caribbean articles, as well as the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. What I'm excited to hear from Miss Mckanic is Miss Mckanic is also a mystery writer. And let me tell you, as an African American female in the writing industry, mystery is not a place where you find very many African American female writers. So I'm interested in hearing her perspective tonight. Her book, Illusions of Paradise, is a Gold Addy Award winner, as well as she is also a the head of creating a mystery book seminars where she teaches young writers how to write mystery. Uh, Her much anticipated book, Two Illusions of Paradise, will be released this year. So I can't wait to read that. She is also a noted media and marketing workshop leader, as well as head of the Mckanic and Associates, a diversified communications company. She has an extensive background, and before I can even muddle my way through all of it, Pat, please come on and help a brother out and let us know more about what you are doing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tell us more. Being from going from print journalism to now writing and helping young writers, how has that journey been for you? And has it been a seamless line, or has it been sort of now you're just finding your groove?
It's been pretty seamless. I
Okay.
knew when I was a small child that I was going to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell people when I grow up, I'm going to be a reporter and I'm going to live on an island. And my first newspaper job after college was on an island. And my
Okay.
book is loosely based on a case I covered while living and working there. Um,
Okay.
I always said though that the passion waned, journalism, I always say journalists aren't created, they're born, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to love it. And I always said when the passion waned, I would leave it. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a smooth transition to public relations and marketing. And then I wrote my book. And
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about the greatest accomplishment, I think that is mine, writing the book, because
Right.
as you know, it's more than a notion. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a love.
It
And
is.
once I figured it out, I thought, why not help others who
Mm-hmm.
want to take this journey? I think everybody wants to write a book, and I think everyone has a book within them. But
Mm-hmm.
as I said, it's more than a notion. It's discipline. It's commitment. My book took 10 years,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
again, once I figured it all out, I thought, why not share this? Because to piggyback on what Dr. Sherrie said, when you are blessed, you also have a mission, and that mission is to help others. We aren't
Mm-hmm.
given our talents just for ourselves. We're given our talents to
Right.
share and help others along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, I guess it's my time.
Right.
All right. And I take this opportunity uh, with pride and dignity because I know this lady. I know her personally. I know how she felt about embarking on a trip that would change her life and change the lives of many other people. The fact that she introduced some of us to what the environment was all about, what it was all, and how we were involved and a part of the environment from the health perspective to the enjoyment thereof. Uh, our next guest dropped everything that she was doing when she fell in love and found her soulmate, and they decided that they would pack up everything and put it in a Ford truck. I think it was a Ford Ranger, old red truck, the kind that had a cabin on the back with a window on it. They put everything that they had into this truck, and they decided that they were going to see the United States of America and everything that it had to offer. Not having all the money that they needed, but what they had was the belief in each other. They had love on hungry nights that would sustain them in national parks where bears was and moose and elk. They had that. The moon shined or shone on them in all of their adventures, and they had that. So I want to bring on the camera a lady who I admire, and I try to live vicariously through her. because I would have done the same thing, but my wife is scared of the woods. But I would have packed up everything and left. I remember, not only is she an award-winning national national award-winning environmentalist. I remember when she was in D.C. I think the Sierra Club sent them to D.C. and they were supposed to be doing this workshop, and people were not coming into the workshop. And when I went outside in the hallway and began to corral and coerce and push people in the room to hear what Miss Audrey Peterman and Frank Peterman had to say about the environment. So it is an honor and a privilege for me to introduce to you my dear friend, one who came up on a fire stove in the kitchen that they had to put wood in it to burn it. And she would sit up against the wall with her back against the wall to the okay, let me bring Audrey on. Before I tell the whole story. Audrey, bring on Audrey Peterman, please. Thank you. All right, I got carried away. What can I say? Tell us more about it. Tell us some things, Audrey. I apologize. I
Thank
am
you,
truly
Bobby.
enamored.
You know, I love you and my
Mm-hmm.
Gazette family with all my heart, and I
Yeah.
thank you so much. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to be on this panel with this very elegant and um, accomplished group. And I have to say that hearing you talk about Governor DeSantis and his efforts really fires me up because as a result of having gone around the entire country, driving from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and visiting national parks between up to 185 of them, I can tell you that I know American history as well as, if not better, than most people because I learned it in the places where it happened, in the places where our ancestors made history, our black ancestors made history in national parks across the country. So I can tell Governor DeSantis that what he is trying to do will not succeed. Okay, the secessionists, the Civil War secessionists did not succeed, and neither will these nefarious plans. And I would tell you, if I had a choice in speaking to him, I would actually laugh at him.
Mm.
A person who is so insecure that he's trying to wear, high heels, masquerading as cowboy boots to amplify his height, a
Yeah,
person who's so lacking in love, a person who's so lacking in knowledge that he's trying to suppress the history of his country because he's so embarrassed and ashamed of it. This is not a person that I am going to be
Mm.
afraid of. This is not a
right,
person to whom I am going to give any quarter. I will step to that man and say, know who you are, and then you would not try to come to me or to any person of color who have our black and brown and white people have been instrumental in the development of America. I learned that in the national parks. So, even in the state of Florida, I recently wrote an article, Bobby, that you published that garnered great attention, saying that while the governor is trying to suppress that history, it cannot possibly be suppressed because it is in the mortar and brick in national parks such as Dry Tortugas, such as Biscayne, such as the Everglades, such as the Kings of the Plantation. And these national parks are just in Florida alone.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
So the governor doesn't even know what he's dealing with. I'll tell you, I write out of my compulsion to communicate. And I am so grateful to the West Side Gazette that when Frank and I discovered, quote unquote, the national parks in 1995, you published everything that we presented to you so that the community could know more of what it means to be American and what we own, because the national park system and the system of public lands, including forests and wildlife preserves, total 630 million acres in
acres.
America. And all of that is supported by our tax dollars.
Mhm.
Millions of people from around the globe come here to explore these places and vacation in them. And if you must know, you don't have to rough it, because there are luxury hotels in the parks where Queen Elizabeth stayed, where President Obama and President Kennedy stayed, and where Frank and I stayed. So you can go from a tent to a five diamond hotel.
Mhm,
You see what
mhm.
I'm saying?
Right.
Yes, yes.
But
Uh-huh.
the most important thing that I want to establish is African Americans, Hispanic people, Asian people, white people, the entire history of all of the events that went up into the development of our country as we know it now, that's all in the national park system.
Miss
And
Peterman, that is
Mhm,
awesome.
mhm.
yes, I'll have to say one last thing, please.
Hmm.
Are you
That is,
sure?
yes, it's going to be the last thing. Listen, while the governor is pussyfooting around with Black
Yes.
history and all the things he's doing, Florida is sitting in the middle, straight in the bull's eye of
Mhm.
rising seas. And you would think that
Mhm.
if the man had some sense, he would be trying to deal with how we're gonna how we're gonna address that. In
Mhm.
2016, I wrote an article that was published in the Gazette talking about how at some point in the very near future, the the Atlantic Ocean, was likely to come into the cities and take people out of their homes. I wrote that article in 2016, and it happened in 2022 on the West Coast.
And Audrey, that's a good point to segue into. Yeah, okay, so our focal area tonight is connecting the past to the present to sustain us in the future. Yeah. So from each one of you all's perspective, and Sherry, I'm gonna go with you first since you're dealing mostly with the youth. How are you implementing that through your work?
So, as I said earlier, my mom wrote the first book when I was little. The book was about me, and of course, the main character was an African American little girl. And she could not get anyone to publish the book because, in their mind, there was no audience for it. And so, what I tried to do with the Wordsmith Academy that I opened, what I've been doing is writing grants to help kids publish their own books, to be self publishers at a young age, and let the world know that we have stories like Miss Pat said earlier. We too have stories. We all have a story inside of us. It is our voice, it is our stamp to say that we were here, we mattered. These are things that we went through, and kind of a way to help the next generation to get through what they're going through. And so, what I try to do is instill in the students that you always complain about we never listen. That's one of the things that every time you try to give them direction, it's like, oh, well, that's when you were old, and that's when this was this, and it's not like that now. And I try to let them know that, you know what, everything that you're doing, we've done in some form. Like everything that you experience, we might not have technology in the same manner that you have it, but we still have connections because everything is built upon what we've done in the past. And we've gone through, we've stood up, we've told the DeSantises and everybody else that we have something to say, and we are not going to be quiet. We're going to let everybody know exactly what we have to say. And when these kids, they tell their stories in these books, it's a chance for them to not only bring what they've learned from the past to connect to where they are in the present, it's laying a foundation for the next generation, because somebody's going to have to replace me one day. Like, I'm going to help this generation write their story, but then somebody's going to have to take the mantle and do that for the next generation.
Great.
And Dr. Sherry, when you say that immediately, the two names, Phyllis Wheatley and Marva Collins, came to mind. So I'm just
Yes.
going to say that and leave it right there. Awesome. Awesome job.
Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
Now, Miss Pat, when you and I first met and were talking, you said to me that you were more oriented towards solutions. you know, and that's so how how do you see a solution in your writing to bring us to connect all of this from the past to the present to propel us into the future?
One of the things I do is to write pieces that speak to issues that are challenging us. And we know the problems, there are many. Um,
Mhm.
it's important to state the problems, but as important, it's more important, I think, to what are the solutions. And so I write in a way, I try not to inflame people. What I try to do, because once you inflame people, you shut them down.
Yes.
So what
Hmm.
I try to do is write from a perspective that will maybe touch somebody's heart, maybe change a mind. Because if you change one mind, you've made a lot of progress.
Mm-hmm.
But with the idea, maybe someone will look at the other side of the coin. And I
Yes.
help other writers because I think it's really important now. With books being banned, we're being erased.
Right.
And so I think it's important for us as writers to document our stories, our history, our family history. Because if we're not writing and books are being banned and they're not accessible, at some point in books, slavery becomes involuntary servitude.
Mhm.
Yes.
So it's
All right.
very important for us to, as writers, to not only use our gifts to speak and address again, not the problems. We know the problems, but what are the solutions? How can we help? What can we do to keep our history alive, to keep the family histories alive, to tell our stories, to document our stories? And now I'm so thrilled that there's so many platforms now
Yes.
between podcasts and social media and self-publishing that allow us, you used to have to get access, you'd have to go through one of the big publishing companies. Well,
Right.
now you can self-publish
Hmm.
and it's pretty much free. And so my thing to people is start writing. Just write. Let's get those stories out there. Self-publish. We'll figure out how to market, but it's important that we keep those stories alive and we keep telling those stories and we document our contributions because others would erase us.
Yeah, for sure. Uh,
That's a good segue because all of you being authors, I think we will at some point tonight we're going to promote your books and put them up on the screen so that everybody can get an idea of what it looks like to be an author, can actually see the face of the book and get a understanding on the importance of if you can't get a book deal, self-publish.
and,
Right.
and Audrey, I,
Mm.
I know uh, coming from your Jamaican gully, it took me a minute to understand what a gully was. Could you uh, give us a little bit and how you connect uh, that the past, present to the future with that gully experience?
Yes. So I grew up with a small stream running in the back behind my house, and it had kind of a deep hole, where the bottom was a little lower than where it was running. So behind behind that my house, my gully became the place where all my friends came to play, where I sat on the banks and listened to the birds and felt the wind on my face and just communed in nature as a child. And so I grew up with that love of nature within me. And so when Frank and I um, drove around the country and went to all those national parks and saw that there were no black people and no brown people among the visitors or the employees, it made me strong enough to decide to do something to change that, because I realized it was probably a result of a lack of knowledge and a result of a lack of information and a result of feeling threatened or not invited. And then when I found that the black stories are all in the national parks where they happened, because the places where history turned are historic sites, and most of the national parks are historic sites. So the confidence that I learned at my gully, feeling one with nature, also stood me in good stead when I had to be in boardrooms, the only black person among billionaires who were supposed to be protecting the parks, but actually wanted to sabotage them so that they could develop them or privatize them. And I said, no, this far and no further shall you go. We're not having that. So my gully is the basis of everything. My relationship with my gully, my relationship with nature, my relationship with God, as I experience God there, is the focus of my life.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's deep.
Well, I you all are drawing me in. You're pulling at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
And Pat, your book, that your mystery book, you said it can't it was because of, I don't want to misquote you. Was it a love affair? Was it something that happened?
It was a murder.
Mm-hmm.
A woman came, landed on the island I lived on, and she was looking for this particular guy. The guy was late, and people said, "You don't know him when he shows up. He drives a bright red car, but he's always late." He showed up. She got in the car. The next morning, they found her dead on one beach, and the car burned up on another beach. And it resonated with me. And I fictionalized it, added a romance, a lot of spicy, good stuff, and it became Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Good.
Illusion in Paradise.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Illusions of Paradise, with the idea that the reporter who, and it's not an autobiography, but they tell you to write what you know. The reporter who covered in the book, who covered the story, gets knee deep in it. And then she starts to realize that everything in Paradise isn't what it seems. She falls
Mm.
in love with a cop. It appears that his boss may be part of the murder. She realizes there's a cover up going on. And the deeper she gets in, her sources start to die off.
Mm.
And so she realizes that nothing is what it seems, no one is who they appear to be. And so it goes from there. It's Illusions of Paradise earned 5 stars from Reader's Favorite. We have about 5 dozen 5-star reviews. And I just completed the sequel, which we plan to release this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yes, and shameless plug, it's available on Amazon. My website is being
Do it.
Look, I
redesigned.
take them down on
Do
it.
it. Do it, Pat. No, that's why we're here. Tell us
Yeah.
where we
Right.
can plug it.
Yeah, my
Oh,
website is being redesigned in
yeah.
anticipation of the new book. I'm also working on a book of clouds, a picture book. I take a lot of photos of nature and got lost one day taking pictures of clouds and thought, I've got to share this beauty. So, got a lot going on creatively.
Okay, good.
Just like the silhouette in that book cover. Can we put that book cover back up? Because you really got to look at that picture,
Hmm.
see that sisters there facing the moon. I mean, all of that in itself talks about and gives creed to the title,
Hmm.
Illusions of Paradise.
And if I
Right.
can, the young man who designed that cover just recently completed a project with Martin Luther King Family Foundation. It is a virtual reality project that lets you go into the marches and his "I Have a Dream" speech.
Oh wow.
That's
Wow.
wow.
Can you put
Yeah.
that in the chat?
I'm gonna help him promote it. It's a beautiful thing. But the King family partnered with him to do it, and it's amazing.
Do
And
you have
it allows you to be there.
okay. Do you have the information to put in the chat so we can follow it?
I don't have it right now, but I will get it.
Also, you're saying when
It's
you
just
when
being
you write
launched.
the when you write the article for the West Side Gazette, you're going to put it in there. Is that what you're saying? Pat?
Yes, yes,
No. No.
absolutely.
So Sherrie, tell us something about Chubby. What's up with Chubby? Hmm.
Oh, so what my mom wanted to do was to kind of expose kids to miracles, that miracles happen all the time, though we kind of, especially back then, It was all so spooky, like, oh, those Christian people, they believe in this and they believe in that. And she wanted to break miracles down on a level that kids could understand. So Chubby is kind of Sherry's bestie. She was a only child in this book. And so what happened was her mom used to take her to visit her grandmother. And we wanted to kind of like highlight some, forgotten places because we're from Jacksonville. So she kind of, just gave an idea of how even in the smallest of places where you never think that things can happen, this wonderful miracle occurred because Sherrie was lonely and her parents bought her Chubby, and Chubby got hit by by a car, and in 3 days he, resurrected. So it was kind of like giving kids an idea of what happened with Jesus on a level that they could understand. And so what I wanted to do was continue that notion of hope and letting kids know that things can happen if you believe they can happen. And so the rest of the books kind of sprouted from there. They're all teaching kids good character. Like, I really loved Fat Albert. I would get up every Saturday because I just wanted to hang out with Fat Albert. Like, of course I couldn't literally hang out with him, but I wanted that experience. And so what I wanted is to give kids that same experience, because basically he was teaching us to be good kids. We didn't know that's what he was doing. We thought we were just hanging in the junkyard, having a good time. And so that's what Sherrie and Chubby do. They go around and teach kids that you all have a certain gift. And if you walk in that gift, your life is going to be a whole nother level. And so that's what I kind of try to do with the books, is just teach kids good character, give them relatable stories. So every story that I write has some truth to it. So I consider it realistic fiction. Like, it didn't actually happen, it could have.
Right.
And, that's one of the things I've learned with kids. They really don't like to read because they don't see themselves in the books. They don't see the stories that they live in the books. And if we want to get them to, be literate and enjoy reading, like, I love Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. So Miss
Me
Pat,
too, me too, me too.
that's how I got hooked on reading.
Right.
Yes.
Every Saturday, my mom made us go to the library, and she would never check the books out because then we wouldn't come back. So what she would do is she would give me a chance. She said, "Okay, you got 2 hours. You better make it work." So I learned to speed read, and I also learned the anticipation of the read. Like, that is the biggest
Yes.
thing. When you're reading a book, it should
Right.
draw you into the story so much that you
Right.
can't put it down. If you do put it down, you can't wait to come back to it. And so that's what I try to instill with my books. I make them longer on purpose to build reading anticipation so that they don't read the whole story in one sitting. They read it in a few sittings, and if the story is good enough, they'll come back and read it again and again and again. So
Right.
that's basically what Chubby's supposed to do. Chubby draws in those kids who, enjoy animals and, kind of are lonely, and, they have this pet. And in this time, a lot of people see their pets as their friends, their children. Like, they see them on a whole nother level. So my mom was actually like clairvoyant. Like, she didn't realize that people would consider their animals the way they do now. And so I feel like, this was the perfect season for that to, be brought to fruition.
Wow.
You have a Pat, you have a reader, Miss Gloria Perkins Sellers. She said, "I've read Illusions of Paradise. It is really, she says, yes, really a good book. Looking for the next."
Oh, well,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Now, I know our own published author is waiting to chime in. I'm gonna let Terry-
No, I'm just listening.
Yeah,
I
but
learn how to listen.
Okay, I would like to just read something before you start here. Project, if you can put up Miss Peterman's book cover, please. I just want to read something. This just okay. There we go. All right, and it says, "The breeze came through the trees and fanned me. The shadows changed position on the water as the sun shifted. The birds called and scratched in the underbrush. I absorbed all of nature in almost a dream state. That just engulfs me. And Audrey, you're again your gully, your Jamaican gully. What is one of your most fondest memory about that gully, Audrey?
Oh my goodness, Bobby, I'm so glad you
Just
asked.
one, Audrey. Just one. Just
I
one.
will. I will. All right. So, you know, there was a mango tree hanging over the deep hole.
Yes.
So when my friends and I were splashing in the deep hole as the river flowed, it would the water would bring mangoes down to us, and mangoes would fall from that tree into the water, and we would all be splashing each other and going after the mangoes. But the most amazing thing was there was always enough for everyone. And so I grew up without any spirit of competition or any spirit of feeling that there could ever be a lack of anything in my life. And I still have that.
All right, published author Perry, what you got, man? Your wheels turning.
No, no, well, it's more of a personal question for each of you, and that is, writing always takes something out of you, and you learn something about yourself in each writing project. Um, what is one thing that you've taken away, I mean, that you learn more about yourself, I mean, not just about writing, but even on the publishing side, where something just really smacked you in the face and it was like, wow. For me, I give an example. For me, writing and publishing my first book, uh, one of the things I realized real quickly was how I was surrounded by a lot of people who did not read. And as you begin to publish, you find out that really the market of your book is about meeting new people. You'll probably sell to more new people than people that you know. And for me, that was a big surprise. What are some of the big surprises you found out? I know Miss Peterman and Dr. Liscombe, all of you come from different genres, from nonfiction to children to mystery. So, what has been one of those things that you've learned as an author that now you're applying to the process? Dr. Liscombe?
Oh, okay. So I've learned a lot of things. Yeah, and when I say a lot, for lack of a better word, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, I have learned that there is such a vast view of authors. Like
Mhm.
at first, the first book I published, people were in awe, like, oh my God, you're a published author. And they made me feel so unique and special. And
Mhm.
then as I started writing more books and publishing more books, it almost became like a resentment. Like how
Mhm.
many books are you gonna write? And I was like, wait a minute. I went from, oh my God, this is amazing, to well, dog, like how many books you gonna write? And I'm like, all the books God lay on my heart.
Exactly.
That's what I'm gonna do. Because that is my way to, I don't know if it was Miss Peterman or Miss Pat that talked about the what is the solution. I think it was you, Miss Pat. Is one thing to note the problems and bring up the problems and talk about the
Mhm.
problems, but my way of addressing the issues that I see is to write about it and to
Mhm.
bring people into the notion that it's your perspective of what's going on that is where
Mhm.
you need to start, because you
Right.
can't control people, you can't control situations to some extent, but you can always control how you view it and how you
Mhm.
respond to it. And
That's
so
right.
I'm going to continue to write until the problems that I'm writing to address are solved. And so,
Mhm.
like I said, I just felt like I went from you are like the best thing since sliced bread to what in the world? Like, can
Right.
you please stop? Almost is what it kind of seems like. And one thing I can say, like you said, the people that don't know me still think I'm amazing. There are people who,
Right.
you know, look at the books, and I just did not understand too how cavalier people are about the art of publishing a book, because they think because so many of us are doing it now, it's easy. It's something that's simple and it is easy, and they don't understand the work that goes into building a concept from top to bottom, or writing a book backwards. Like, one of the authors I really enjoy is J.K. Rowling, which is not really her real name, but the one
Right.
that does the Harry Potter series, that she
Hmm.
wrote her whole series from, from the end to the beginning. She wrote the first book of what I want it to end like, and then went the other way. And that to me was just so fascinating, like being able to construct something from nothing. And you know uh, people, how they view the process, and what they feel like you've done. Like, oh, everybody writing a book now. No, everybody is not writing a book now. Everybody
No.
does have a story, and everybody can write a book, even if they do it through, like me. I ghostwrite for people. Like, I have a few projects now that I'm able to work with people from, and I feel like me being an author and having more than one book written, I can help people walk that path, because they do think it's easy at first when they see all these black people on the front of these books. They're like, oh, this is a simple. No, it really is not. It really is not. But
No.
that's okay that you think that. So now we're going to change that perception. And that way, once people get to the end, they can be so much more proud of the work that they've done, you know. So that to me is my take on it. It's almost like a polarized situation, where you, on one end, people think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then on the other end is, oh, you're just in the fad. This is a fad and the trend that everyone's writing books.
Well, Dr. Sherrie, I'm sure some of our other great writers heard that as well. Probably Dr.
Right.
Maya Angelou, as well as Toni Morrison. So, but keep up the good work.
All right,
And
so I'm
guys,
in good company.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
good company.
So now we're kind of getting ready to wrap things up. So Perry, we want to continue that question with the other guests.
Yes, I'd love to hear from Ms. Pat and Ms. Peterman on their experience, because again, like I said, it's all from different genres, and so Pat, again, having come from broadcast, from the journalism side to writing a book, you alluded to it earlier, that process. So again, what was one of the things that you can really share that you took away from learning how to, you know, write and publish this first book?
I think they're more than surprises. I think some things were solidified for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a son, and raising him that he is in the world and doing good and working and making his way in the world is my greatest accomplishment. But
Mm-hmm.
professionally, of all of the things I've done, and I've been blessed to accomplish a lot, the greatest accomplishment is this book. My
Mm-hmm.
book is dedicated to my niece because when I wrote it, she said, I remember when I was a little girl and you told me one day you were going to write a book. So all these years later, I wrote and published a book.
Right.
But I've always believed, and I raised my son this way, if you have a dream, launch it into the universe. Do
Mm-hmm.
your part. And if you do your part and it's for you, at some point, God will meet you along the path,
Oh, yes.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this dream, long held dream, several careers. This is a third career,
Right.
but I believed in it and I made it happen because I was a single parent and with a mortgage and, all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, by the time you do the day and you put the child to bed and you clean up the kitchen and you do whatever, all you want to do is sit on the couch and just,
Right.
but a piece of music by Layla Hathaway. Listening to this song one night, something said, go and start writing. And I started writing and I committed. I said, write 10 pages a night or for 1 hour a night. And at some point I had to say, okay, stop writing and go to bed. And I got to a point where the characters started talking. I could be washing
Right.
dishes and the characters would start talking in my head. And I said, okay, just let me dry my hands and, get to the computer. So the idea, and this is what I try to say to others to inspire them. If you have a dream, it doesn't matter what people say. You can't, you won't, you shouldn't. Doesn't matter. Hold on to your dream. And you can tell if you're on your path. If you're on your path and I always tell people doors open. People say, how'd you get past that mountain? What mountain? Was there a mountain there? Because if it's for you, the way will be made clear. Now, if you're struggling, well, maybe that's not for you. But if you have a dream and you believe, and this, after writing this book, somebody the other day said, you're an author. And I poked my chest out, an author. That is, to me, it's what I always wanted to do. And so I say to everybody, you got a dream, go for your dream. Don't let people tell you can't, you won't, you shouldn't. And then I wrote my book. I pretty much believe I can do anything. I can't walk on water. But anything else, if I believe it and I do my part, and I tell people, if you have a goal, do something towards that goal every day. And one day you will have arrived.
Right.
Wonderful.
Just every year I adapt a word, believe. Usually it's believe. This year it's empathy and edit because I'm trying to get my books out. I can feel you, but I may not have the time to reach out. But, believe and just keep moving forward. Don't listen to naysayers. There's always somebody who can tell you why you can't, you shouldn't. Have you ever known anybody? I didn't know any reporters growing up. I didn't know any writers. I had a 6th grade teacher who pulled me out in the hall one day and said, if you settle down, you'll be a brilliant writer. Right. And I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I'd never discussed it with it. My father worked for General Motors his entire adult career. He was part of the Great Migration. So I didn't know writers. I didn't know people to talk to. But I had this dream and I figured out how to make it happen because I believed I could. And again, the universe met me on the path. So, just believe and move toward your dream, believing that they'll come true.
Thank you for that words of wisdom. Miss Peterman?
Yes, so I so love my fellow panelists and I'm so inspired. And I, come from a journalism background. And the first book, Legacy on the Land, Frank and I wrote together, my husband Frank and I wrote together. And it was mainly to bring information about our discoveries about the national parks and the Black history they contain. And when we went to get a publisher, we got so many rejection letters because they said they did not recognize the genre. They didn't know what genre it was. So I said, the hell with that. Let's just publish it ourselves. And that was in 2009. And so this is our third book. From My Jamaican Gully is my third book. And I write because I can help writing. Also, I think I have the most important topic in the world to convey information about, and that's climate change and global warming. So I write every single day. I write so much on Facebook. I write a blog, The Joy Train. And recently, last week, somebody told me something so profound that is part of the reason I can keep going. She said, you are helping us see the world in a different way. You are helping to shift the paradigm. And I'm like, thank you, God. That's what I'm trying to do, to help people to think of the world in bigger terms and in terms of humanity, and not just in terms of our separateness, but in terms of our connectedness as humanity.
Wow. Ladies, put your information in that chat box so people can get in contact when they're doing it. Okay.
Wow.
So what you taking from
Oh
this,
man,
brother?
so nature. I'm one of those nature children. I love this time of year to just stand out in the grass with no shoes on and allow
Exactly.
that energy to just vibrate all through my body. and meditate and feel the warmth of the sun. So I'm an outdoorsman camper, and so I'm truly embraced and embarked on what you're saying, Ms. Peterman. And I just wish our connection for our kids to understand the importance of nature and the preservation of nature and just living it and loving it the way you do and the way we should, because without it, there would be no us. And I mean, in Genesis, we were put in a garden, and that's really truly where we still belong. I mean, I can go on and on, but my passion, I believe it's important that we continue to press on to share the information, and at some point, give experiences to our young folks to really understand it more. To,
It's vital. It's vital. We cannot have another generation coming up that doesn't know, doesn't feel comfortable in the outdoors, and doesn't know our history, and is not conversant with, what happened in this country. We can't have it.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And before we go, do want to put Pat on the spot. You've been talking about this sequel. Can you give us a little teaser about the
Yeah,
sequel?
look at him.
Well,
No is the answer, but I'm
it'll be out in time for
okay.
summer beach reading season.
Okay.
My first book had a signature drink, a pineapple mimosa,
Hmm.
and this book
Ooh.
will have a signature drink too. I am going to, and with the marketing, I'm going to do something totally different. It will be
Okay.
an experience. I am going to, I think, change the marketing game for indie authors.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Okay, I see we got another guest chiming in. Beverly Barr says, "I have enjoyed every moment of the engagement. I already have a copy of my love, Audrey Peterman's book, and will purchase Miss Mckanic's book. Thanks for an evening of enlightenment." Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So,
Thank
okay.
you.
So
We,
as
we
we
appreciate the support.
Absolutely. So as we get ready to close out, it's at that hour. I truly want to thank you, ladies, and thank you so very much for allowing us to peep inside of your world and to understand more how you have connected our past to the present to propel us to the future. We are certainly grateful. Now I want to read something as we get ready to close. Okay, here we go. And it comes from one of our guests. She says, "Thank you. As a writer, communication specialist, and author, I love to answer questions regarding the vital role that writers and authors play in sharing our stories, taking control of the narrative.
Yes.
It is critically important now that we become torchbearers, protecting our legacy and documenting and contributing our contributions as others seek to erase us. So
Mm.
many of us have stories to share and that need to be heard. The growth of social media, podcasts, self or independent publishers, if you will, facilitates our ability to document, share, and record our stories and contributions. How does one get started? I can offer tips. So I want to say to you, Miss Pat, thank you so very much. Audrey, keep connecting us to the environment. And Sherrie, our youth are truly our future. And to all of those who listen tonight and watch, we thank you. To our producer, Ariel, and to our director, Broderick, thank you so very much. And let's continue to stay connected by all means necessary. God bless you all and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
privilege.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the exposure.